As usual, our speaker and resource person for this session, and likewise in the first session, is our own colleague we have worked with in the UK and also in Ghana here. He's in the person of Dr. Echampon Efriye, a senior lecturer in accounting and director of finance in Society Research Institute, University of Gloucestershire, wherever it is. Now, AI business partner for accounting, finance, IT professionals, and students, free webinar session 2. And on this note, I want to hand it over to our resource person who would take it from this point. So, Doc, you are welcome, and you can take over from me now.
All right, good. I also wanted to welcome our participants. If you were in the first session, you would have had a taste of things to come. But we also know that some of you probably this will be your first time joining us. So that if you were in the first session, there might be a bit of a repetition, but not too much of that. I wanted to just briefly introduce myself and say that I've been very, very interested in the transformational effects of AI for our professions. So I've taken a very keen interest in these developments over the past 12 years. And it's a pleasure to team up with my colleagues at Duke Williams to bring you these series of sessions. We anticipate that this will be the last remote session. We are itching to go because this doesn't normally lend itself for online learning, and you would see why. So the purpose today is to give you an overview of the plans we have in terms of the various levels of training and partnership that we have in mind. I'll just give you a preview of the 3 levels, and I would emphasize a bit more on the key competencies that you will be developing as you journey along with us from level 1 through to 2 and 3. As usual, I will spend about 20 to 25 minutes taking you through an example of the way that the training and the interactions will be organized. The idea there is to give you kind of a preview of how we would proceed once we meet again. At the end of that, I suppose there will be a few questions and answers. Let me just say that the purpose of the session today is not to really emphasize the technical aspect of the subject or the topic that I have selected. It was quite a bit tricky picking a topic that we will use for illustrative purposes, because I know people will come from different domains in terms of accounting, finance, and business. So later on, when we start talking about the domain expertise and application, don't worry. The idea is not to teach you the topic, but to illustrate how data science and AI eases the pain of data collection, analysis, and the development of insights. So that is the introduction. Let me just go straight into the plan, the way we've designed the levels of engagement. The reason why we think you would need to go through these 3 levels is that we have had to scaffold the skills, the knowledge that you need to ease the pain, to make it as seamless as possible, because it could be challenging. In fact, it is challenging if you don't have somebody holding your hand to help you. Developing the competence in data science and AI doesn't lend itself to personal study. It's very painful. I mean, some of the reasons why this is the case is that the domain is rapidly changing, and maybe the word to use is it's always emerging, it's always evolving, such that if you want to use published materials, say textbooks and other resources online, they become very outdated very quickly. So if you bought a book, or if you went online and found some resources and wanted to self-study, some of the codes and the instructions would not work. The reason why they would not work is that they would have become superseded. So by new technology and improvements. Okay, so there are always emergent trends when it comes to data science and AI and the way it's being applied in various domains. So at level 1, we would give you an overview and give you the foundational ideas so that you'll be able to pick up on the emergent trends. And we do that by illustrating and showing you how you can apply the understanding you're getting from the sessions in joining the transformation that is ongoing. So we will have to give you, guidance on where to look for information and how to understand the code structures. It's very difficult to talk about it in this way, but the idea is if you don't have an overview of the things that tend to change and the things that don't change, you cannot find the way on your own if you wanted to. So we give you that overview of the emergent trends and give you a very solid foundation so that after a while you can begin to read and understand and find things out. And when things don't work, you can understand where to look for solutions. But the main issue is this is about coding. And I know for some people, when they hear the word coding, they begin to shiver. It's not scary. It's fun. It is fun. We make it fun. And the way we do make it fun is by giving you that practical understanding of the structure and a hands-on approach to doing things. In fact, you hear me saying all the time that the best way is to learn is by doing. It is only by doing that we become. So we show you the foundational structures of coding, and in no time you begin to pick up. And once you develop that taste and the appetite, you are then able to apply the code structures to whatever domain you intend to apply it in. Okay, so there is the need for you to understand what is happening, need for you to get a foundational concept, the need for you to get the code structures, and then we begin to apply that to various areas of expertise. Well, so that depends on your background, your interests, what you already do, and therefore we'll place a lot of emphasis on trying to know about you when you come into those sessions and some of your interests and your backgrounds, so that we can use examples that will be relevant to you. We don't want you to just learn things theoretically. We want you to have a hands-on experience. So between the time when you register, as you go through the registration process, we'll be asking you to provide us with information about what you do, what you intend to do, some of the things you know already, so that when we design the case studies and the applications, it will be bang on relevant to the audience. So that is what level 1 is about. Level 1 is about giving you those foundational ideas so that you are able to begin to apply the concepts and the knowledge of data science and AI to your domain of expertise. The case studies will be quite broad. The examples that we would use would be quite broad, and we would make sure that you have the toolkit to be able to integrate it, begin to apply it to your area of expertise. I've just given you an overview there. The details will come once you have kind of began the registration process. We will send you a lot more information. You will have resources to begin to look at before you come for level 1 so that we can hit the ground running. That's the idea, foundation, level 1. Level 2, if I have to use one word to describe it, will be machine learning. Machine learning. So we begin to now apply the developed knowledge in machine learning to solve a lot of problems in different domains. The reason why we need to look at machine learning before we look at deep learning, you can see the words there. The form of learning that is normally characterized or classified as machine learning is a bit structured, right? So we have to participate in setting up the system for the system to use its power to do the learning. So it's machine learning is not really AI yet. We are not just leaving the machine to explore on its own. We have to apply a lot of statistical and probabilistic tools in getting the machine to learn. But that is very important. A lot of the things that we have been doing as human beings in almost every domain up until the emergence of deep learning has been a form of machine learning. So the power of the machine in machine learning is for it to be able to automate some of the things that we do now very rapidly and do it at a very large scale and more proficiently. So it is very important that we have a view at machine learning, because you can really see a semblance between what you'll be doing there and what you actually do now when you think as a human being. I've put the word dashboards there because for most of us in accounting, finance, and business management, a lot of the use or application of machine learning techniques come in the form of analyzing data and being able to apply it in decision making. And dashboards are very important tool, because they summarize everything that we have done so that we can see a live outcome of the analytical work that we have done. So one of the key outputs of the things that we'll be developing will be dashboards for almost every task that we'll engage on in level 2, so that you can see the results of what you're doing at work. Before we can do that, we will take you on a mathematical journey. You don't have to be a mathematician. Friends, don't worry at all. I'm not talking about maths as our teachers taught us some time ago. This is when maths become fun, right? It will be very exciting because everything that you do will be visualized, and you would begin to fall in love with maths. You'd be like, wow, why did I not understand calculus or things like that? So it's very important that we set up that foundation, because for us to be able to become experts in AI, we need to be able to apply some algorithms. And algorithms or instructions are just mathematical tools. And it's very easy for you to understand. So why not? We would set it up in such a way that you'll be able to see the fun side of maths. And with that, you are then able to apply the machine learning in creating dashboards, applying all these algorithms to solve a lot of case study problems in your domain. Okay, so that's the idea for level 2. Level 3 is when we hit the top, when we really, we really hold the bull by the horn. That's when we would be very matured to understand the way neural networks in various forms and the way it's being applied now and the way it's evolving. That's where actually artificial intelligence, as can be technically described, gets onto the scene. But because we have had a good understanding at level 1, and we've seen how these things are developed in detail at level 2, level 3 becomes exciting, because then we're able to apply different forms of deep learning algorithms in problem solving. So that is the journey that we intend to take you on. We'll say more about the way the sessions will be delivered in terms of number of days and things like that towards the end, but I think this gives you an overview. I don't want to say too much. What I want to do now is I want to give you an idea of how we would go about delivering the sessions. Okay, so I will leave the PowerPoint now, and then I'll go into the world of data science and AI. We will be using, let me just close this guy off and come back in. Stop sharing that. We will be using primarily Anaconda, right? We'll be using the IDE called Anaconda because Anaconda is a free IDE that gives you the tools that you need. I mean, in a very visual way. So I know there are many alternatives, right? Maybe sometime later on when we get to level 3, after we become very familiar with Jupyter notebooks, which is what we'll be using, maybe at that stage when you are a lot more confident, because, you know, familiarity and practice with this would give you a good grounding. Maybe at that stage, we may begin to use VS Code, Visual Studio Code, because some of the resources that you find online and elsewhere would have been developed using that. But if you have a very good understanding of Jupyter notebooks, I mean, you can blend the two. In fact, I will show you as we go along how to blend the two. And they are the two commonest systems that you will find people using. There are others, of course. People will talk about PyCharm and Spider and other things. But we will prefer using Jupyter notebooks, which we will access through Anaconda for all our sessions. And you'll see why. I mean, these notebooks will be things that you can carry with you and use and change and annotate. So that's the first terminology, right? These are some of the things that we'll talk about in level 1. We will be using Anaconda and Jupyter notebooks. So this is how it happens. It's a free software that you will install on your system, and once you've installed it, we will give you a video that will guide you right before we meet. So it will be quite straightforward. You launch your Jupyter notebook like I'm doing now. I hope you can still see my screen. Yes, good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So once we come in here, it gives us access to all our folders. I've got some things hidden here, so I have to go and find my stuff here. I've prepared this Jupyter notebook, which is what we will be using today. So that is the form of the results that we'll be going through. And when I said it to be hands-on, most of the time I would have prepared these notebooks. Once we begin, the codes will be there. So I'm not going to start by asking you to write the codes. But it is better for you to become a user. So you have to, the best way to learn coding is to see, do, and create. So you'll be seeing what I have developed. You will use it and use it and use it. And then gradually I'll wean you off that. I'll ask you to start creating things, tweaking it and playing with it. And it is by doing that you will then become very confident. In fact, you will have to make a lot of mistakes, right? And we will sometimes create these problems so that once you make that error and see how to resolve it, when you're on your own and it happens, because it will happen, right? It will happen. Even walking, right? Even when we walk on the street as adults, we still sometimes trip, right? So yeah, errors will be part of the learning process. But Jupyter notebooks will ease that problem because the errors will be there for you to see. We will decode or find out why the errors have happened, resolve it, and then when you're on your own later on, you'll be able to avoid them, or when you make them, you'll be able to resolve them. Anyway, so here we are. I'm not going to say too much. I mean, if it was in the first session, I would have shown you how I created this. But for now, because of time, and because I don't want you to go home today thinking, oh, that's a lot, I want to simplify it by saying, here you are, you've come to the session, we've got this activity, and you log onto your system and you just plug and play, right? And the way you play is by just selecting a cell. I'm just using my cursor now. You can see the blue strip there. You can see the blue going down. It's because I'm pressing my arrow key downward. And that is all that I'm doing now. I'll go all the way right through to the end. So let me go back to the top. What are we doing? Got a title. There is an activity. I wanted to introduce Jupyter Notebooks to you today because that's going to be our main tool. And as we work through this example, I wanted to be using some of the terminology that we will start using. And through this activity, I also wanted to demonstrate to you the power of data science and AI, because we will be able to grab a lot of data that will be valuable for various decisions that we're making. And the data can change so that our analysis will be live. Like, it's not historic and outdated. If new data becomes available now, as we sit, we'll be able to change it, amend it, play with it, and see what the outcomes are. We are therefore able to verify, authenticate, and make sure that we are dealing with, as far as we are concerned, the right data. So that is the power of AI. Whatever domain we are in, AI, data science gives us the ability to collect a lot of data so that we can develop insights. Our value as professionals is all derived from the insights that we can get from analyzing data. Beyond that, there isn't much difference between us and machines, right? So how do we analyze the data, however big it is, to be able to apply all the knowledge that exists in our domain, the technical knowledge applied to big data rapidly? Some of the things that we're going to do now, if we wanted to do it manually, it would take us forever. But within 20 minutes, we'll be able to look at that huge amount of data, do a lot of valuable analysis, change, adapt, bring in more data, take out the things we want to, and verify the authenticity of the insights that we are developing. Okay, so you probably realize that as the director of the Institute in Finance, most probably I'll be using an example from the finance domain. And you're right, right? You're right. So I will be using an example from investment analysis because it's quite straightforward. I didn't have to create any data, and it can be live. It could be kind of data that is out there that you can all relate to. So I decided to use how to obtain risk-adjusted returns as a topic to illustrate the use of Jupyter Notebooks today. Right. So, and that's what you do when you have a problem, when you have a task. You have to draw on your technical expertise, the knowledge that you have, and then you have to identify the type of data you need and all that. So let's assume we've done all of that. And now we want the machine to help us go through that task. What we do is when we come into our Jupyter Notebook, we have to switch on a few, if you like, instructions. Let me use the word software. There are many instructions or software written that are sitting out there in the cloud that we can import into our little notebook now for the machine to use in helping us collect, process data, visualize it, and develop the insights. So the first thing you do is you have to know the relevant packages or the relevant pieces of software that would help you with that task. Therefore, we would say you import the relevant packages. So that tends to be the structure that I follow, and it eases the burden and makes it very straightforward. So all the software that I need have been written into this first box. You can see I've highlighted it there green. So when I say import, I'm writing an instruction for Anaconda to go into the cloud and import this package. It's called date time. There's another one, Yahoo Finance. You can see all of them. They've got names there. Pandas. We'll be using Pandas. Pandas is like Excel on steroids, right? Pandas is like the big brother of Excel. Anything that Excel can do, Pandas will do it far quicker and can do more than the things that Excel can do. And then you've got NumPy. NumPy is just numerical Python. And that, again, is able to do all the quantitative methods that you can ever dream of, all the things that you probably shied away from in secondary school. If you're a quant, anything that you enjoy doing manually, NumPy will do it at ease, okay? So we will borrow that because we're going to deal with numbers that will be in spreadsheet form that must be added, subtracted. We have to take logs of thousands of numbers and all of that. It's NumPy and Pandas to the rescue. Yahoo Finance is just going to help us grab the data for the shares that we need to calculate returns and risk-adjusted returns for, okay? The date time is a software that will help us vary the date because remember, we want relevant data. So we have to tell the system what period we want the data for. So yeah, that eases the burden for us. One of the powers of data science and AI is the fact that we're able to visualize the things that we're doing. We're able to see the outcomes of the things that we're doing. And Plotly is a very fantastic package that helps us to visualize our objects. And you see it in action in a minute. So, friends, I've imported all the packages that I need. And you can see this little play button here. When I click on it, an arrow, sorry, asterisks appear here. And that is Anaconda going to fetch all that, all those pieces of software, and it's done it. A number has appeared here. There is no error. That means it has been successful. It didn't take much time. It's done it. So I've got all the software now ready in this notebook for me to use. I go to the next one now, and I'm going to identify the companies and the dates for which I want the data for. So what I've written here is I've written an instruction. I've created a variable, is the word. I've created a variable. I've named a thing here, and with the equal to, I'm telling the system what to do. So I'm asking Anaconda to use the date time package. So you can see I've called it DT here. So DT.datetime. I want you to remember that the date now. I want it to be up to date. So now. And I want it to go back. The start time, I want it to go to the 1st of January 2018. So for whatever companies I want the data for, I've set the date. And you see, it's beautiful that I've used the word now, because now is relative, friends, isn't it? Because tomorrow will be a different now, and Friday will be a different now. So once I've got now, I don't need to change the date. I want it to be up to date. If I wanted a specific date, I would put a specific date. But in this example, I want the system to tell me what is relevant now. So go from now back up until the 1st of January 2018. And I wanted to use Yahoo Finance to download the data. So you see Y Finance, YF here. I'm creating a variable called DF, and I wanted to go and collect data from 1st Jan 2018 up until now for these entities, right? For these entities. Well, you know what these entities are. So this is the FTSE, the 100 most capitalized entities on the London Stock Exchange. This is GSK, and so on and so forth, right? So however many companies I want, I can list them in a bracket here, right? You can see the curly bracket and the square bracket. I have just paused because this thing is very pedantic, okay? So in no time, you would see you have to do everything precisely the way I've done it. So let me just do it now. Let me just run this. If I run this, it's going to go into the system and collect the data for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies for that period. And I wanted to see a bit of it. So I've said DF. DF is the data frame that will contain all that data. I want to see the head. The word head there is to say, give me a preview of the top. I could have said tail, and that would be the bottom, but I want to see just a bit of it. So if I run it now, you would see that the system has done it now. You can see it's gone in there and it's completed the down.
Hello, Dr. Charles. Please, your microphone is muted.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Ken, for bringing that to my attention. I hope I didn't go on for.
No, it was just briefly. He just picked the right time that you just went off.
Yeah, I think it's off again. I don't know if you are using some shortcut keys that mute the microphone.
Oh no, no, I'm not. But let's see. Sorry. Thank you. Please keep an eye on me, right? Thank you. I just wanted to demonstrate that pedantic nature of Python. So you see here, everything has to be done precisely. For example, let me just remove this tiny dot. You see that dot there? Let me just remove that tiny dot and run this again. You can see the system has given me an error now. It's saying there is something wrong with the name YF download. It's trying to help me because it hasn't been defined. It doesn't know what it is. So that dot can break my code. I have to bring it back before it works. Okay. You can.
It's muted again.
Sorry, let me hide this thing. Let me take that tiny apostrophe there. This one. Okay. Let's try again.
Muted again.
What could be happening there?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is happening there. Okay. I'll keep an eye. I'll keep an eye. So
Okay.
yeah, so these are some of the reasons why you really need somebody who knows what is happening to be around you, because it could be a bit worrying when the absence of a tiny comma or I don't know, something can break your code. Anyway, let's just move on. We've got the data now, but the data we've got is a lot. And for us to use it, we need to process it. We need to collect the right bit of data from this big, massive data frame. And what we're going to do is we're going to use just the closing prices for each of the entities in our calculation. You can see for each of the 5 entities, we have adjusted close, close, open. We will also have other things, volume, and probably more. So what we're going to do now is we're going to subset. We're going to cut just the closing prices from this data frame. So a lot of the time, about 40 to 50% of your time when you're doing data analysis or, AI, sorry, applying AI, you spend about half of your time cleaning the data and preparing it, because once you've got it ready, the system is very fast. Okay, so I'm just giving you a taste of how you pre-process your data. So I'm just going to come in here now. I'm going to collect just this bit here, the closing prices for the 5 entities. And the way I do it is I create a new variable called close, and then I call the data frame that I created. See here, df, I call it, and I'm only taking the column that has the name close. So the way the code is structured is I have to use the dot. The name of the variable dot, the column will give me access to that column. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. I've created a new close variable, and I'm grabbing just the columns in the data frame that has that come under the close column. And then I'll check. You see, every time when I've done something, I need to check to see if what I intended to do has been done. So again, I want to see the top bit of the close variable. And you can see now, the system has done it now. It has now subsetted. It's now gone and cut just the bit of the data that I needed for the 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entities. Okay, so if I need to calculate and analyze risk-adjusted returns, then I need to calculate returns. And for those of you who have looked at this in finance, you remember the formula for returns. Again, if you don't, that's fine. The system is able to help us do all of that maths quickly for all of the 5 entities very rapidly. So I'm creating a new variable called log returns, and I'm using NumPy. Remember NumPy, this friend of ours? NumPy is so good at mathematical stuff. He's got an instruction for how to calculate logarithms, right? So I'm calling NumPy for NumPy to calculate the log returns. There are some very beautiful properties of log returns in finance, right? There are many other ways of calculating returns, but for statistical analysis, the best way of calculating your returns is to use the log returns, okay? So that's what we're doing. And for those of you who are mathematical purists, we're just dividing P1 by P0, and we're taking the log of that. You see, these are some of the things that I said you shouldn't really care about, right? Don't worry. If you don't understand what I'm saying there, I'm just now going into the technical toolkit for finance, and I'm applying that domain knowledge. So, I mean, AI doesn't mean we have to forget what we know. AI is only helping us do the things that we know we have to do better and quicker. Good. So, right, I'm not going to go technical anymore. So, NumPy log returns, I'm doing some magic here. I have to remove the NAs. And NAs, you see, when you're dividing two numbers that are in a list, and you're saying first one divided by the second one, you keep doing that until you go to the last one. The last one will not have any number after it. So the system cannot calculate the last return or the first return, depending on how you started. And Python will say, I can't do it. There's not a number for it. We need to remove that because that is not a number. And if we don't remove it, then NumPy will not be able to calculate with something that is not a number. So this is very important, but again, in the session, you see why. So yeah, this line is calculating returns. And once we've calculated the returns, we wanted to change the names. You see these names here, AZN.L, GSK.L. I mean, it's very clunky to type them. So I'm just changing the column names from, I'm removing the .L so that I'm just left with AZN. I'm removing .L so that I'm left with GSK, like that, okay? So this will give me all my returns, okay? The number has appeared here. That means Python has done it. It's done it for all the 5 entities for the 5 years data that I have, okay? So what I need to do now then is I wanted to calculate risk-adjusted returns. And the way I adjust my returns is to compare my returns with my risk. Right? In finance, another name for risk is volatility. And the way I calculate my volatility, if you remember the standard deviation formula, it's quite long. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use Python to calculate the standard deviation. So for the log returns that I have just calculated, I'm using .std. Remember we used dot earlier on. So when you use dot, you call the name of a variable dot a function, and that function will then be applied on that variable. So we've got a variable here that is holding all the returns. We're just calling on it, and we're using .std to calculate the standard deviation for all those 5 entities. Bang, you can see it's done it quickly. It's done it. I mean, AstraZeneca, GlaxoSmithKline, and all those guys, including the FTSE. So yeah, we've got our returns, we've got our volatility, but in finance, we have to be very careful because the prices that we picked were daily prices, and therefore the returns that we have calculated were daily returns, and therefore the standard deviation is daily standard deviation. But we will need to analyze it because analyzing creates comparable standardized data. So we're going to analyze our volatility by multiplying our daily standard deviation by the square root of the number of trading days in a year. Right? Can you imagine if you had to do all these things by hand? That would be very painful. But Python to the rescue, again, we call the name of the variable std, and we multiply it by numpy dot the square root of number of days in a year, 252. We multiply that by 100 so that we can see it as a percentage. So let's do that. You can see it has given us now the annualized standard deviations or volatilities of all the 5 entities for the 5 years that we have looked at quite rapidly. Just so that we look at our log returns. If anybody wanted to see the log returns, that's where they are. And we're just playing with numbers. We want to see it. We want to have a feel of what is happening. So why don't we visualize the returns? I'm not going to go really through how I developed the code here, but I just want us to see the returns over the past 5 years for every one of those 5 entities. And Plotly, we're just using Plotly here. When we hit that, it's done. Can you see here? We've got them here. So these are the frequencies of our log returns. Just to give us an idea that these returns are not really normal. Again, I'm just preempting some conversations because for the purists, when you start doing some concept analysis, you have to be a bit mindful about the distributional properties. The distributional properties of your returns. But you can see here that AstraZeneca, somebody's mic is on. If they mute themselves, that will help. Because there is uncertainty. That is
Doctor, please, you're muted.
I think we are all clear.
Doctor, please, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Right, so the returns exist. We've got our volatilities, displayed for each of them as well. So we are now ready to go into the calculation of the risk-adjusted returns. In fact, before we do that, why don't we just visualize the volatility as well? We've just seen the returns here. Let's also see how the risks are behaving. To look at 60 days. And you see, it's very important that you don't just have a static view of your data. You might say, oh, this is the return or this is a standard deviation, but for development of insight, you want to see the trend, how the data has been going up or down over time, because it's the trend and the differences that gives you the insight. A static view is quite a dangerous way to begin to make decisions. So yeah, most of the things that we'll be doing today, I want us to look at the trend for each of these metrics over a period of time so that we can it's not really a forecast, but it gives us an idea about how the past has shaped up so that we can begin to form an intuitive understanding of what might be likely in the future. Anyway, so we're looking at 60 days as a window. So we want to look at our volatility or the standard deviation for each of these entities for 60 consecutive days to see the trend. And when we have plotted that, again, you can see here they are. This now gives us an idea about who has been more volatile. And you will not be surprised. For example, here you see Plotly is very good because you can just gloss over it and it will give you a picture of where you are at. But it's quite informative to realize that the index is less volatile. Most finance professionals would expect that because the index is a combination of a lot of assets, isn't it? So for those of you who've done finance, they would say that is a portfolio. That is the efficient portfolio. Probably that you would use for your capital asset pricing model and other things. So we are not surprised that the FTSE is the least volatile, and each of the individual assets is probably a lot more volatile. On another day, we will exploit this for our portfolio construction, won't we? Because this gives us an idea about how to combine these guys to minimize the risk. Anyway, but all of that said, we are now set to look at some of the benchmark metrics that in practice you would want to use to calculate your risk-adjusted returns. And this is what you do in industry. Some of these things were quite problematic to calculate. So I remember a story about Harry Markowitz, who designed what we call modern portfolio theory, which is not really modern. It was in the 50s. Some of the analysis that was done there were very limited, I mean, in scope. But because we have data science and we have a lot more computational power now, we can dissect, we can split our volatility into different segments. We don't have to use standard deviation, because standard deviation can be a bit misleading because it's a measure of total risk. We may want to look at different segments of risk. And now we're able to do it. Why? Because data science gives us the ability to subset and grab various bits of our volatility. So we will see that. So the basic risk-adjusted return measure is Sharpe ratio, as some people would probably know amongst us. The idea there is that you're not just looking at the upside in terms of your return, but you want to look at your excess returns. How much of your returns exceed the risk-free rate of return? And for each unit of that excess return, how much risk did you bear? Friends, I don't want to give you the formula and all that, but you can see here that I'm making an assumption. We're assuming that if the risk-free rate of return is about 2%, and we want to calculate our Sharpe ratio, that will be returns minus risk-free rate of return divided by volatility. That's what we have written here, right, in this, cell. So we ran that, but we don't just want to see it as a number. Remember, we want to see it as a trend. We want to see how has it panned out for each of these guys over the period that we are looking at, so that we have a visual understanding of what's happening. So we plot it. And when we plot it, it doesn't take time at all. We can see who is doing well. We can see who is doing well. And that's that guy here. In terms of Sharpe ratio, that guy wasn't doing well, but has been for a while, has been doing well. Anyway, we're not giving investment advice. Remember, it's just to show you the power of data science and AI. We've been able to quite rapidly calculate the Sharpe ratio for these 5 assets over a 5-year period and visualize it in no time. The next kind of risk-adjusted return that we would want to obtain is a Sortino ratio. The reason why the Sortino ratio is very important, again, is precisely what the comment I made about Harry Markowitz, because you don't have to look at your total standard deviation, because your volatility has both an upside and a downside, right? So the rate at which your returns have been jumping around, going up and down, and when it goes up is good news. What you don't like is when it goes down. So if you really want a good measure of risk, then you probably have to look at the downside risk. And that's what the Sortino ratio does. The Sortino looks at volatility, but only volatility when the asset prices went down. It excludes upward movements, okay? And that's what we're doing here. You see, we go into our log returns, and we are only taking our negative log returns. And we are rolling that over our trading period, which is 60 days. So for each one of them, go back over the 5 years, look at all the times when the returns were negative, calculate the standard deviation of that, and use that to calculate the Sharpe ratio. Effectively, you're just doing what you did with the Sharpe ratio. But your denominator is not total standard deviation. Your denominator is just the downside. So you can see the system is able to do that quickly. We can visualize it. Let's just visualize a Sortino. So this is the downside risk. So you can see the guy that had the highest downside risk is AstraZeneca. And now we want to calculate the Sortino. We are dividing the excess returns by the downside risk and visualizing it. Bang, like that. And then the picture is different. This guy is still doing well, friends. This guy is still doing well. And we can go on and on. The next one, because of time, I'm just going to not say too much. I mean, Modigliani ratio. You probably would remember Modigliani, Professor Modigliani, Nobel Prize winner. In his twilight years, designed this ratio with his, I think it was his niece. So the M2 ratio, which kind of compares the returns that an investment is making with its benchmark. So that's the reason why we had a FTSE here, right? The FTSE is, if you like, the benchmark for the London Stock Exchange. And if these entities that we are analyzing need a comparator, then we'll have to benchmark their returns with the FTSE. And yeah, let's just visualize that. I mean, in the actual session, we would talk about the formulae and the relevance of it, but all I'm showing you now is the power of data science. We're able to do all of this quite quickly and develop it over a period of time so that we can have the insight. Still drilling a bit down, when we are analyzing risk, we probably, as I said, are mainly sometimes concerned about just the downside. So we may want to calculate what you probably know as the drawdown. The drawdown is the biggest falls. So which of these assets can go up and fall, right? So we are trying to calculate, in the instance of the worst case scenario, which of these guys, in terms of, assets, will lose us the biggest amount of money. So there's a formula for that. We've just written a function here to calculate the drawdown, and it will tell us who would have lost us the most money. Again, we are not surprised that the FTSE, which is the index, would have lost us the least money. But somebody like HIK, who was doing well, remember earlier on, could have also been the guy who would have lost us the most money once upon a time in the past 5 years. And then finally, just so that I bring this to a close, one of the modern measures of risk-adjusted return is a karma ratio. It's the only risk-adjusted return which is not named after a person, but named after an entity. Again, the formula is there, but this time I wanted to vary the presentation of the results by using a bar chart. What it does is it's comparing your returns with your maximum drawdown. So the drawdown that we've calculated here becomes the denominator, and then we would see for these entities what the drawdown compared with the returns are. So in no time, friends, what we have been able to do is we've been able to apply, if you like, the most up-to-date and relevant current knowledge about how to obtain risk-adjusted returns of any asset, portfolio, investor, market, fund, mutual, whatever. These are the techniques that you'd be using in practice, and we are able to automate how to derive them. And however many assets we have wouldn't be a constraint. We'll be able to analyze and get that insight so that if we were in practice, we'll be able to make the relevant decisions with the data. So you can see here, friends, that truly, well and truly, data science and AI gives you the power to grab big data, apply your knowledge in a very efficient and reliable way so that you can have the insights and make the relevant decisions. I would finish this one here and finally just say that is let me just share back my slide briefly, just to conclude. so that if you had questions, we can answer your questions. If you were really thinking about the whole thing, the whole thing comes down to helping you develop your coding skills, so that you'll be able to apply or use whether machine learning or deep learning in conjunction with your data, domain expertise to solve problems in a very creative way. The maths would be at the background, right? You don't need to actually create any mathematical solutions. But if you know the right packages to use, the maths will be working behind the scenes to ease the burden for you. And with that, I think I've said enough, so that you may be able to ask questions and we can help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. And in a moment, we'll go to questions and answers. But then I want to briefly bring out some administrative information so that we can have all the questions and answers addressing the IT, the AI, and the administrative part of the whole thing. So thank you very much, Doc. Let's go to our question and answer session now. If we have, okay, we have Ebenezer will be first, Blue will be second, and Gideon. Doc, do we take all the three, or we should take one after the other?
Let's do one after the other. Maybe one will probably even answer the other.
All right.
Okay.
So Ebenezer, your hand is up. Please, you can take the floor.
Okay, William, thank you very much. In fact, I followed the processes from beginning to the end, but at a certain point in time, I think I seem so confused. But my question is, I'm actually an accountant, yes, and I present final account to management on monthly basis with the help of ratios analysis and all that. So linking it to what you just did, which purely seems to me is a financial investment and portfolio returns and all that. How am I able to use this? Or is it that I'm going to be able, I have to learn how to do this to be able to use it to do my presentations and or prepare my final account? Because I was thinking the AI actually will be a soft spot where I can put in one or two informations, and it gives me everything that I need or I use to do my presentations. I think if I made myself clear.
Yes. Ebenezer, you did make yourself clear. So yeah, you're right. So like I said, I needed to choose a topic for illustrative purposes. So we were kind of speaking like finance experts today. In terms of financial accounting, you will. I think the best thing for you to keep doing is to still. When it comes to preparing your accounts, we all know because of your standards and your company policies and all that, you will be traditionally preparing your accounts as usual. The power of data science and AI, like you said, is when it gets to the point where you want to draw insights and analyze and present that information to maybe a non-technical audience. You will need to learn the language. See, so the best way to maybe explain this is the AI and the data science is just another language. A language that gives you a lot more tools to play with your problem solving tasks. So you will need to learn generally how to use the software, and then you'll be able to do a lot more than you're able to do now in terms of the analysis. So yeah, it depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you're doing there. If you're kind of, I know we've got packages that will do your ratios for you, right? That again depends on what problem you want to solve. So if you wanted to continue using Excel, that's fine. But whatever you're able to do with Excel or Sage or whatever in terms of your trend analysis and your projections and finding relationships and all that, I mean, Python will do that and do a bit more. When it comes to becoming a lot more analytical and drilling down and finding associations and kind of predicting what the future might be like, you are in a whole new territory with a Python, because you can vary your inputs and see what are likely outputs in terms of forecasting and predicting and all that. So I wouldn't say this system will replace your bookkeeping or your accounts preparation software, but it will do a lot more with the output once you have the accounts. When it comes to analyzing it and projecting it and finding causes and effects and all those things, that's where the power will come to bear. Does that help a bit, Ebenezer?
Yes, it does.
Okay, right.
So do we go to the next person then?
Yes, please. Let's go to the next one.
Lou, please,
Okay,
you can
so
take the.
good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Please, am I
evening.
audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
So actually I am Richard Na, but then my company's laptop is for Blue Penguin. And so that is why
It's
you are
giving you a
seeing
new
Blue
name.
over there. Yeah, so Doc, thank you very much. For me, I've been hearing of AI and how it is trying to revolutionize our operations, our reporting, and our activities. So I was just thinking through how it is going to affect my work. Currently,
Okay.
I am in charge of compliance at my company. So how does AI help me to position my company in such a way that reporting in terms of regulatory compliances, in terms of other statutory compliances are being met, probably on time, so that we avoid fines. I mean, that is primarily my job currently. So that is what I may hope that AI will be able to help me do. That is my question.
Yeah. So that's quite, I wouldn't say that is straightforward, but that's the boundary that we are pushing now, because you see a lot of your compliance will come down to reporting and finding outliers and consistencies and deviations, and it depends. So the power of data science and AI is that you'll be able to create structured outputs of things. So when you have big data and you want to check compliance in terms of, I don't know, consistencies or trends, or whether people are doing the right things, you can, it gives you a live kind of volatile picture of what is happening. So you'll be able to design if you like, kind of a link with your database, whatever form that is, to be able to see what is happening, and if there are outliers, if there are things that are deviating, if people are, I mean, I don't want to talk about fraud because that would be another, yeah, but all of that, as long as it's down to data, anything that would have required a human, I mean, somebody to check, anything that has to do with checks and deviations, you're better off having the ability to get the system to have a dashboard. I mean, this is what I mentioned earlier on. So you've designed a dashboard. If you tell the system, this is what I want produced on a daily basis or whatever, it's very straightforward. And this is where people are sometimes dreading the fact that in no time, when it comes to any form of checking things, we are not better than the machines. If we know how to set the system up to check for us, the system will flag things that are, I mean, of concern to us so that we can act on it. So compliance is quite straightforward. I mean, you need to bring your domain experience and expertise, and whatever they want you to do at work, you need to bring that with you into the session to be able to then find out which packages would help you design what dashboard so that you can see the things that are of interest to you. I'm trying not to be technical, but I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. And that gives me
I think it's
another
quite
question
clear.
to ask. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so I wanted to find out, do I need a basic understanding of coding to be able to face AI?
No. Well, when I say no, not with us. You have to be. In fact, we prefer that you probably don't even think you know, because we will have to start from ground zero. That's why we're starting from level 1. Okay, so we don't expect you to know, but what people sometimes misunderstand the whole thing, I mean, is that people think I can avoid the coding and use AI. Yes, you can. Like everything, right? You can avoid learning the fundamentals and pretend that you're very good until something doesn't work, you see? So that's why we think it's better for you to, and it's fun, it's possible. We will give you the foundation, level 1. We will explore a bit more and in fact, given your domain experience or whatever, we will show you how to create these dashboards or these outputs so that when we begin to use the deep learning where you want the system to take responsibility, you know what you're doing. So before you come, you don't have to know, but you cannot not know by the time you've been with us, because we would make sure you know.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doc. It's quite insightful. And I want to also add that, you see, you can be looking at the AI from your current work that you do, which is, of course, the primary interest. But then the way things are changing, the profession is changing, and so on. I also want us to have a perspective of the future of joining the AI program now, because based on what you are doing, maybe the AI may seem to be very little impact. But then the whole process will take you to a stage where you are more like an AI consultant, where you have gained mastery in creating dashboards and several analytical tools. So you become more competitive in the industry and more relevant for organizations, either your own organization or even working with a team of consultants to be able to win contracts and big projects. So yes, look at it that in the immediate relating to my work, but in the medium to long term, when I have this mastery and I have this tool, I'll be so sought after, not only in Ghana, but probably in Africa and the rest of the world. And so I'm committing myself into becoming among the early adopters in the world. Before we go to the question with Gideon, behind the scene, there are several applause that organization, major institutions are giving to the Duke William Initiative. And one of it, I remember vividly, said that they are happy that we have taken the bold initiative to do the AI for finance professionals and accounting professionals in Ghana. Because what normally will happen is that AI will be there globally, especially in Europe and America. And there wouldn't be any company that will take the bold initiative to be partakers of the initiative. And so it will not be until 5 or 10 years where you will begin to see AI coming on the scene in Ghana. And that they are applauding us for being among those who are exploring the AI at the world stage now, as it is happening, as it's changing. But we are grateful to Doc that he has phenomenal expertise to help the Ghanaian finance and accounting professional to partake in something which is live, taking place now, instead of waiting for us to join the AI discourse in 5 or 10 years. So I want to applaud you and encourage you that what you are doing will make you to be among the early adopters, not in Ghana alone, but in the world. So think beyond what you are doing as an organization or as an establishment into the expanse of opportunity that awaits you when you have committed to the AI program. That is the mindset that we hold for you. And there are several administrative things we'll communicate later, not on this platform, as to the phenomenal benefits that the early adopters of the AI program via the Duke William and other institutions that we are working with will put you into. So we have further information that will communicate to those who are joining the program and how they will gain extreme competitive advantage and mastery in Ghana and the rest of the world. And that is what we want you to, Ebenezer, Gideon, and all the other people, Marvel and everything. This is what we want you to hold. Richard. So let's come to Gideon for your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. William. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. I'm really excited about this futuristic move, as Mr. William explained. Please, my question is in series. I don't know how it's going to be, but then I was following what Doctor was saying, and he was explaining how the AI will help us manage risks, of which we need another um, maybe statements in relation to risk, that it is called brutality in finance and all that. I was really following, and I realized that this is something that is going to really help us in the foreseeable future. And then I'm eager to learn more. And then I wanted to know, how do we get the Jupyter notebook? Is it maybe on maybe App Store for us to download on our iPhones? And then can we get some groups, maybe probably WhatsApp groups that we can be updated on? Maybe doctor will send us some videos and some little tests. Maybe he will send us some videos to download and watch and give us some apps that we can use it to do some small tests so that the practical aspects of the AI as well. And then we can do more. I also see that Mr. William is also giving an update on an upcoming program or an upcoming class that it's yet to commence in September, so that if we are in this group or this, we can get more updates to learn more. As for me, I'm very, very eager to learn more. So I want us to, find a way to be in a group or in a team so that we can be updated all the time. That is my question I want to ask. How do we get the Jupyter app? How do we get it? Is it on App Store we can download? How also do we find ourselves in a group that keep company and do some video assignments and practical tests as well? That is my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gideon. Doc, please help me answer this question here.
Yeah. So yeah, Gideon, we have started. We've set up a set of resources that will be made available. So you're right. We are creating a community that will be, a very safe space for partnering with you on your learning. So best way to say it is keep your eyes peeled on, be in touch. Our admin guys will be circulating these resources, but they will be, at this stage, they will be for people who would show interest in going the next step, which is joining us in September. In the long term, medium to long term, we are creating a center for AI in Ghana. But maybe, we will not talk about the mechanics of that now. But you're right. We are creating a community, and people who will be joining us will be at the forefront of sharing their experience, asking questions, and obtaining help. That's why we're calling it the business partnership program. You can't do this alone, and we will be in touch, and that space will be there for all our learners too. I said it well.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Doc, thank you very much. I see Stephanie. So Stephanie, you may ask your question, and soon we'll draw the curtain to a close. So Stephanie, please, you can take the floor.
Okay, I really enjoyed the presentation that you gave. I also wanted to find out, I am an ACCA student who will be taking an exam in September, and I don't know if I'll be available when the classes or the sessions are ongoing in September. So I wanted to find out, in case maybe there are some of us who don't make it in September, will there be other opportunities given whereby we can join in another time, not necessarily in September?
That is a good question, Doc. You can take it, but ordinarily, the 18th, the week of the 18th is when the ACC has actually finished we consider that one, when you would have finished your exam for the September sitting. So it will just come after you have finished your exam, but before you enter into the peak season of preparing for December. So we consider that one. However, before Doc take the floor, you see, we are creating the first cohort in September, but we cannot promise the next cohort. It's based on several variables, but then Doc can shed light on some few possibilities. Beside the September in this year, we may not bring another variant this year. And for me, I won't want you to drag. And if we will, then we will communicate it. But then, like all companies will do, I want to send a disclaimer that after the September, we are not promising that we will do some in this year. We have to finish and make an appraisal and know all the strengths and weaknesses and decide whether to do one before the year ends or to do it after the year ends. But whoever subscribes to the level 1, we want to give you the assurance that we won't leave you midway, because Doc is committed to carry you through level 1, level 2, level 3, and part of the community that we are creating, and so on. So many things we share at the other side, and the community that you partake in, and the consultancy and all those things we'll share at the other side. So, Doc, besides September, do we hope to do one before the year end?
William, I think you've said it all. It's unlikely. We were looking at if, but it's if, maybe. So that's why William is not certain if we will be able to do one again in November-ish. We can't promise that. So, Stephanie, we would say September for now. Maybe November. If not, it will be sometime in the new year.
Okay, so does that mean that maybe next year would be an option?
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Next year, next 2 years, definitely, it will be option. And sometimes you may be starting part 1 or level 1, but your colleagues may be in level 2 or level 3. It's an option. That is most certainly going to be an option. But whether there will be one towards the end of the year, we are not sure. We can't guarantee that. Stephanie, I hope that is fine.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Doc, I think that you can give us your closing remarks, and apologies to you all because we promised 7 o'clock, and I know it's past 7, but in the next 5 minutes we'll be finishing. So, Doc, many closing remarks.
I think we've said it all. Thank you very much, friends, for making it today. We hope you've got a bit of a fair idea of the intentions that we have, and we are looking forward to seeing all of you or most of you in September. Do keep in touch, because we'll be sending those who are interested. We'll be sending you a lot more information about the onboarding, so that you'll be prepared for us when we hit the ground running next month. So thank you very much, and speak to you sometime.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. It's been fascinating, and I think that it's doable. But just one announcement. When I went to the office this afternoon, some of you called, or let's say we had a call that requested if we were going to give you letter to your employees so that they can sponsor you. That is also being worked on. So when we send you the invitation to register, anyone who also want letter to the employer, we'll give you letter, and hopefully we'll support it with the necessary document for you to get the sponsorship. We appreciate your time. I'm very, very excited about this program. I can't wait to join the program myself. I want to join the program because I believe that this is the future for the finance and accounting professional, and I want to partake in it and become more relevant to society in the 21st century. So thank you once again on behalf of Doc and the Duke William team. We wish you all the best, and we hope to see you registered and joining on the 18th of September 2023. Thank you.